Welcome back to another edition of the Slipstream, an F1 podcast. We've got our normal cast of characters riding along in the Slipstream tonight with Austin, Matthew, Cole Trickle Jr., and me, Brady. For this episode, we're going to kick off our 2023 team preview series where we will count down from 10th to 1st and provide a preview of each team for the upcoming season as we all count down the days until the 2023 season gets underway in Bahrain. So for this episode, we'll get started with the 2022 last place constructor, Williams. So to start, Sten, how was Williams 2022, and are there any reasons for optimism moving into 2023?
I think it was a decent year for them. They were pretty far off the pace 2-3 years ago. I think last year they were a little bit closer. They had a couple of scoring races. Third race of the year, Australia, amazing strategy. Get Alex Albon some points early in the season, and I think that with maybe foreshadowing a little bit of driver changing, I think that they might be better equipped behind the wheel to be a little bit more aggressive on the track.
Yeah, I think there were times last year where it seemed like the Williams car had potential. Alex Albon driving 50 some odd laps on hard tires to get 10th place was a pretty awesome drive, right? There was, if I remember correctly, there were plenty of times where Williams was like fastest in the speed trap, but it didn't really pan out to a lot of race results. Just to give sort of a rundown of the last 5 years of Williams' performance, 2022, they finished 10th with 8 points. 2021, they finished 8th with 23 points. Very much helped by George Russell's second place in the rainout in Spa. 2020, 10th place with 0 points. 2019, 10th place with 1 point. And 2018, 10th place with 7 points. So last season was their fourth time in 5 years getting dead last. And we all know the history that Williams has. So what's it going to take to get them to break through and actually move up the ranking order a little bit?
We got a few things to talk about. We got a new driver, so Logan Sargent, that we can talk about briefly, replacing Nicholas Goatifi. This is what's kind of sad to think about real fast. Is this is probably, we thought it was going to be the last one, but this was probably the last podcast we ever mentioned Nicholas Latifi ever. So he's getting replaced by Logan Sargent, up and coming star, and Williams just announced that they have a new team principal as well. So a lot for them to be excited about, a lot to look forward to. New leadership coming in with James Bowles. So he's been with Mercedes for over a decade. He's got 9 constructors championships. He's got 120 race victories as a strategy director over at Mercedes. So big stuff coming in for Williams. Super exciting to see how he is going to change their team. But it's sad to see Nicholas Latifi off the grid finally. I feel like we've 3 years he made it.
Yeah, and so Matt, I know you've been our sort of resident Nicholas Latifi supporter and hater a little bit. But do you think that just him not being one of their drivers is reasons to be optimistic for 2023? I know that might sound harsh, but he was there for 3 years and made more mistakes than he scored points.
I mean, you're getting rid of quite possibly the worst. Mazepin may be there, but first or second worst driver of like this modern era of F1. You're just getting rid of him. Now, you're replacing him with a rookie. Does it show in the standings? Maybe. It may show on race weekends, but when it comes, are they going to dig their way out of 10th? I don't know. I mean, they had a good car last year. I mean, I think Albon that showed promise in the car, so we'll see what Sargent can do. But it makes them better, him not being there. I don't know if it's going to show up in the points. It may just show up that they're finishing 13th on Sundays instead of 19th.
Matt, I'm going to ask you a question. If you can data mine, how many safety cars were there in 2022? And do we think that there will be less safety cars next year with Goat Tiffy no longer being on the track?
100%. Less safety cars, less, yellow flags for spins. I will go on record and say that next year we will have one less driver going the absolute wrong way on an F1 track, thinking that he was going the right way. So I think we'll minimize that from 1 to 0 now that he is gone. Um, I guess the question is, and we'll see when their livery comes out, is Sofina Foods on the rear wing, now that the CEO or whatever his dad does, that gives a lot of money to Williams, are they still going to be a big sponsor for them now that his son's not driving?
Well, I'm gonna say it's probably not, but we love the rumors. The rumor on the paddock is that Gulf will be a key sponsor for Williams coming this season. It's not been announced yet, but they've been teasing for a while. That Gulf obviously left McLaren at the end of the season, so it could be a huge iconic livery for Williams if they incorporate the Gulf color scheme. So yeah, so I'm very excited for what Williams has coming in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I know, Cole, you had mentioned Logan Sargent, and obviously he's, a rookie driver. There were some, by the time this podcast airs, there'll probably be more information about this, but there's some recent commentary around how Williams had always planned for him to be an F2 for 2 seasons. But he turned in his rookie F2 season with a couple of race wins. He finished fourth in the standings. And so they sort of accelerated his timeline to F1. And they're hoping that he can, hop in the seat and learn quickly. And, the race schedule early on probably isn't very easy for him. Not that there's any easy tracks, but places like Saudi Arabia, Australia, those are challenging tracks. So, I'm going to keep my expectations low for Logan Sargent the first couple of weeks. Let him get his feet wet, kind of let him see and test the limits of an actual Formula One car. I mean, look, we do our F1 League race on F1 2022 on PlayStation every week, and Saudi Arabia is terrifying in a video game. So having full confidence to full send around that track in the second or third race of the season, it's going to be a challenge for him. But I'm hopeful. I mean, we're obviously an American podcast. He's an American driver. The recent American driver's track record hasn't been great. So yeah, I'd love for him to come on the scene and surprise all of us.
It is interesting that the transition from F2 to F1 is so exponential, that an F2 car is just slightly slower than an Indy car in terms of shared lap times. It's like what, an 8, 9, 10% increase in speed, decrease in lap time. But yeah, I think, I know that he'll be a rookie, but if you just like rewind again to 2022 when De Vries filled in Monza, Albon was out, Latifi was racing. It was he's done a couple of F1 practice sessions, but he hasn't done an actual race. He finished 9th, only 7 seconds off the lead. Latifi was in 15th, the second lowest finisher, and he's a lap down. So even just comparing those two situations where like De Vries would beat Latifi in F2 all the time, Latifi got the seat in F1. I think that even though it might not feel it as far as experience, I think is a direct upgrade from driver capabilities, just because we might not know what Logan can do, but we know what Nicholas couldn't do. And I don't think it could get much lower.
Yeah, I'm curious if that is Nick DeVries's performance is either A, shows that the Williams car has potential, at least on that track, or B, it shows that Nick DeVries is a really good driver and that he's certainly ready, which he's getting his shot this year too, and I think everyone wanted his services. Um, so yeah, I mean, maybe there is more potential in that Williams car, and not to beat the dead horse over and over, but clearly Nicholas Latifi lacked, the talent or the ability or the confidence really to get results. And fresh blood, haven't been in the sport, willing to take risks. Maybe Logan will do that.
Yeah, they tried. Actually, I think everyone thought that DeVries was going to be at Williams. That was what was happening during the season, and then he had such a great performance with Williams, and then Pierre and Esteban and all the dominoes fell during silly season. So the shakeout happened that Toto preferred Nick to stay in the Mercedes family at Williams, but that did not work out. So we will get into AlphaTauri later, but Logan Sargent was not the first pick for Williams Racing, but I think it will hopefully pay off in the long run with the American fans in the crowd. I mean, we've not had a full-time driver since Scott Speed 2008, 9, somewhere in there. So we're obviously the sport growing the way as it is here. We're jonesing for a driver. So I would expect very minimal from Logan Sargent for the first handful of races, but hopefully mid next season and then come 2024, he's full stride and Williams has the glory of what Williams Racing should be.
So look into this season. Go ahead.
Yeah, so speaking of Scott Speed, so Scott Speed was the last driver 2006, 2007. He didn't score a single point in F1. So the last time an American scored a point in Formula One was Michael Andretti in 1993. So America is on a 30-year drought of finishing in the top 10. So maybe he could make something happen.
So you're telling me there's a chance. And that's fascinating. I mean, look, we don't know what is in store for Logan or the other rookies. I mean, there's 4 rookies that are going to be on the track this season, so we'll see how he does compared to his rookie peers, right? And I know they're not all in the exact same car, but people may shorten the learning curve more than others and find success early. So we'll see. I mean, I think we've touched on it a little bit. There's a few reasons why I have at least a little bit of optimism for Williams is that I do think Alex Albon has proved that he's a pretty good driver. After his sort of fallout with Red Bull and getting a second chance, I think he's clearly capable, and I think he's building confidence in that car. And him being in his second year with Williams should be good. He's kind of captaining the ship now, along with sort of the influx of new talent on sort of the technical director and team boss side with James Vowles coming from Mercedes and his history from being around Toto and being around a championship winning organization is probably a good thing, right? Now he's going to have his own learning curve with a new role, new team, etc. But I think, that with a young, exciting rookie driver, there's reasons for optimism. The group or the entity that owns Williams Racing has also infused an extra $36 million into the team. So it seems like they're doing all of the right things to have success. Now it's just a matter of getting on the track and having success.
I think too, foreshadowing a little bit into 2023, this is the first time that we're now going to see that sliding tier scaling of R&D, of everything else that's happening, wind tunnel time. So if you just look at the winner of the constructors, Red Bull at 80% available time versus Williams, which is at 120% available time, they have 50% outright more time than Red Bull to develop. And I don't think that you're going to see that immediate shift overnight, but this next year and the following in 2024 will be so fascinating to watch, seeing some of those lower performing teams start flipping tipping the scales because they have more time, more research, and more capability to correct some of the issues that they might have had.
I think I read somewhere that they started developing this car like summer break of last season. So they've been developing this car for a while now. So hopefully, and I also read that James doesn't start at Williams. I want to say until February 20th. So he's got a few weeks to even get there, and then I'm pretty sure that preseason starts like the following week. So he's only going to have a week before he's got cars on track to make a difference. But this car has been developed longer than the majority of cars on the track. So hopefully they can hit the ground running because he brings a wealth of knowledge and 9 championships. And so again, hopefully big things for Williams. And there were rumors of Porsche coming with Williams. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it sounds like Gulf will happen. But Porsche would be such a great addition to add to them.
Yeah, so it seems like there's some reasons for optimism. We're all very anxious to see how that plays out, and yeah, I think Sten, to your point, with the way that the development time frame is allocated now, and them having more than anybody should hopefully, the purpose of that is to try to even the playing field, and hopefully that works, right? We'd love to see a more competitive grid. We'd love to see Williams competing for points week in and week out, and have more of a revolving door. Or maybe the back half of those points. They're obviously probably not going to compete for wins this year or podiums, but maybe. But that's obviously what the FIA and Formula One are trying to institute with sort of the rules changes to level the playing field. And maybe 2023 isn't the year it happens right away, but maybe going into 2024, one of these bottom tier constructors, whether it's a Williams or an Aston Martin, hits the nail on the head, and all of a sudden they are competing for podiums. So the opportunity is right for them to move up, I think. So getting into 2023, why don't we do predictions? So Matt, let's start with you. What do you think Williams' 2023 season is going to look like?
I think it'll be similar to last year in an extent of they'll be competitive in certain tracks where their car excels at. We saw last year, especially in some tracks that speed mattered more than anything, that they excelled at. So I think we'll start seeing that some more. I could see them maybe their ceiling is 8th, and that really kind of depends on this wind tunnel time and how well it and how much it matters to them versus the teams that have less. But I think we're still looking at an 8 to 10, 9th, 10th is more likely than any of them. That's kind of where I'm going. But I do think we will see progress. It just may not matter in points, but it'll matter in standings.
Sten, what about you?
I don't think they're going to be 10th. I don't know who will fill that role, but I think they have such a great opportunity ahead. I hope, as a fan, that they take a big step forward, a bigger step than the people around them. So, I don't know if they leapfrog AT or Haas or Aston. Like, I don't know what the mix-up is going to be, but I don't think they're going to be last in the constructors at the end of the year.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would say that they don't finish 10th, and I would say they probably make it as high as 7th, but they are not. I don't think they will get dead last this season. I think that they have high hopes, and I think that they are on an upward trajectory for that team over the coming years. I think you get a couple big name sponsors. You have an American driver. They have big American funding now. I would expect to see them not 10th this year. I mean, maybe Haas, so maybe America 10th anyway. But I don't see Williams. I don't think they'll be 10th. I'll give them 7 or 8, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so I agree with almost everything you said, Cole. I absolutely think they have positive trajectory, like we've talked about, right? I think there are good things happening. We'd all love to see Williams up there competing. It's a classic brand. I know when I first started watching Formula One in the 90s, it was all Damon Hill, David Coulthard, and Williams was was the king, right? And very competitive. So personally, I'd love for them to get there. Now, where I'm going to differ a little bit is I don't think it happens in 2023. I think we might see glimpses of success. I think Alex Albon may have a good race or two here or there. I think we'll see the car improving for sure. I just think they've got too many sort of new parts, right? James is going to be in his new role, like you said, a couple of weeks before the season. I don't think they've announced, at least by the time we're recording this, they haven't even announced a technical director yet. They have a rookie driver who maybe isn't going to be worse than Nicholas Latifi, but he's still a rookie driver. So for me, and I hope I'm wrong here, I do think Williams will be 10th. I think Logan Sargent will finish 20th in the constructors. But I hope that we see glimpses of what's coming maybe in 2024. But yeah, that's the fun part. We don't know. So anything else on Williams before we wrap up for our first preview of 2023?
I was hoping that Jenson Button got the role for team principal for Williams. That was a rumor that was floating around in the paddock that I was. So was Susie Wolf. That was up in contention as well, which I thought could have been pretty cool of Susie and Toto. But yeah, I think Williams did the best. They grabbed the best team principal that they could have gotten, given the fact that this is probably their fourth team principal in the history of the team, behind Sir Frank Claire and Yas. So it's a big move for them. It is very, very exciting for that team. James did, in an interview, he did say his goal was that the Williams team they were not going to be a Mercedes B team like Tauri is the Red Bull B team. That he does hope that it's an independent team, that he gets to build it the way he wants to. So hopefully that's the case. And again, I'm in on Williams. I'm excited for him.
The other sort of rumor about James is that, was this his path to taking over for Toto in the future, right? Is this his go be a team boss, lead Williams for a couple of years, and then when Toto moves on to sort of whatever his executive role? And Toto was like, no, I hope James is there for 10 years like I've been here for 10 years, and I hope he has his own success. Now, whether he's a Mercedes plant inside job or, basically interviewing for a future role with Mercedes, we don't know. But, I think we've talked about it. I think he brings a lot of talent, a lot of experience, winning championships. So he knows what it takes. And yeah, but it's going to take him time to get the right people in the right places at Williams to sort of try to do the same thing, right? Or at least to get them back into a competitive space. But I'm excited for it. I'm excited for them. I'm excited to see their livery. I'm excited to see what sponsors they have, if it's Goal for Porsche, whoever. A lot of reasons to be hopeful. We just got to see if it translates to the track or not.
And it's interesting if the new rules and regs do what they're supposed to, Williams might be the number one Mercedes team in the next 3 years. Just based on having more time investing in the car. Eventually, I think something is going to flip-flop.
Could you imagine Alex taking it to George on the track? Like those two are like best friends, and all their videos are always hysterical when they're taking each other out in lawnmower simulator racing. That would be awesome to see Williams and Mercedes battle.
Maybe we'll get it. Maybe not in 2023, but maybe we'll get it. If nothing else, yeah, that's our first constructor team preview for 2023. Again, we're going to go down the list, going to release them every single day leading up to the season from 10th to 1st. So we'll start with Williams, we'll end with Red Bull, and get everyone prepped with kind of a quick refresher on the 2022 season, but looking towards 2023 and evaluating any changes the teams have had and the prospects for the future and what we think might happen. So as always, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.